The cool wind carried the scent of autumn leaves and the sound of distant laughter as Emma strolled through the park, her heart heavy with unspoken words. She was on her way to meet David, her husband of 5 years, for what was supposed to be a routine meeting with their lawyer. But the air of casualness that usually preceded such visits was absent today. Today, the meeting was about one thing: divorce. Emma adjusted the strap of her handbag, her knuckles weighed against the leather. It hadn't been an easy decision to make, but after months of soul-searching and countless sleepless nights, she was certain this was the right path. The thought of the life they once shared together, the dreams they had woven so carefully, now unraveled and scattered like autumn leaves, brought tears to her eyes. As she rounded a corner, she saw David waiting for her by their lawyer's office. His face, usually etched with the lines of a kind smile, was now set in a grim line. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the chasm of unspoken emotions between them threatened to spill over. Emma took a deep breath, forcing herself to look away first. She couldn't bear to see the pain she knew he was feeling, even though it mirrored her own. The lawyer's office was a stark, impersonal space, much like the sterile courtroom dramas Emma had watched on TV. The only warmth in the room was the faint glow of the afternoon sun filtering through the blinds and the subtle tremor in David's voice when he spoke. He looked older, his usual charm dimmed by the weight of the situation. "I've gone through all the documents," he began, his voice hoarse. "And I think we're in agreement about splitting the assets." He paused, running a hand through his hair, a nervous habit she had always found endearing. "But there is something I haven't mentioned. Something I should have told you a long time ago." Emma felt a chill crawl up her spine despite the warmth of the day. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. David hesitated, his gaze dropping to the papers on the table. "I'm sorry," he finally said, the words scraping like sandpaper. "I've been seeing someone else." The confession hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken accusations and shattered trust. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. Her mind, which had been preparing for this conversation on a purely logistical level, suddenly reeled. Betrayal, the ugliest word in any relationship, had slithered into her sanctuary, coiling around her heart, squeezing the breath from her lungs. She had known, she realized with a jolt, or at least she had suspected. There were late nights at work, cryptic phone calls, and an inexplicable distance that had grown between them. But she had chosen to ignore these signs, clinging to the hope that her marriage was strong enough to withstand the storms of life. Now she felt foolish, the naive fool who had been living in a world of make-believe. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring the crisp lines of the papers in front of her. She blinked them back, refusing to let him see the pain he had caused her. She owed it to herself, she thought, to be strong, to be resolute. David shifted uncomfortably, the weight of her silence pressing down on him. "I know this doesn't change anything legally," he said, his voice cracking, "but I wanted you to know." Emma managed a humorless laugh. "You wanted me to know that while we were signing our life away, you were living it up with someone else." "No," he whispered, his eyes pleading for understanding. "It's not like that. I've been miserable for a long time, and I didn't want to admit it. I thought if I worked harder, if I achieved more, then maybe things would be better. But I was wrong." He reached out to her, his hand hovering uncertainly above hers. She flinched away, pulling her hand back as if burned. His touch, once a source of comfort and love, now felt alien, contaminated by the revelation of his infidelity. "It's over, David," she said, her voice shaking. "We both know it. We've been pretending otherwise for months, but it's over." The finality in her voice seemed to snap him out of his reverie. His shoulders slumped, and the gesture he had rehearsed in his mind, the one where he would take her hand, look into her eyes, and beg for another chance, died on his lips. As the days turned into weeks, Emma found herself thrown into the turbulent waters of divorce proceedings. Each day brought a new wave of challenges, from dividing their assets to deciding on child custody. The lawyer, a shrewd woman with an air of having seen it all, guided her through the choppy waters. Amidst this emotional turmoil, Emma threw herself into her work, finding solace in the structured routine of her job. She threw herself into every project, pouring her pent-up emotions into her tasks. It was a way to channel her feelings, to find a temporary escape from the emotional labyrinth she was navigating. Then came the bombshell that shook the fragile structure of their divorce deal to its core. David's confession, the one that had initially cut her deeply, now emerged as a potent weapon in her arsenal. It was undeniable proof of his guilt, a testament to the pain he had inflicted on her. And she decided to use it, not for revenge, not for spite, but for justice. She would use it to ensure that she got the upper hand in the divorce settlement, not because she wanted to punish him, but because she deserved it. She deserved more than the initial settlement he had proposed. The lawyer's office buzzed with activity as lawyers from both sides gathered around the conference table, their faces a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. When Emma revealed her plan, there was a stunned silence followed by a murmur of approval. The news spread like wildfire through the grapevine of high society, leaving people both shocked and intrigued. Emma's friends rallied around her, praising her for standing up for herself. Meanwhile, whispers of pity followed David, who had, until recently, been the epitome of a successful, albeit cheating, husband. Karma, it seemed, had a sense of timing as impeccable as that of Alfred Hitchcock. The divorce proceedings concluded with a settlement that left Emma not just satisfied, but empowered. She walked away from the courthouse hand in hand with her lawyer, her chin held high, her eyes shining with newfound determination. The settlement ensured that she would be financially secure, allowing her to move on with her life without the worrying of economic uncertainty. More importantly, she had managed to turn the tables on David, proving that she wasn't the naive young woman he had married. She had evolved, matured, and was ready to face life on her own terms. David, on the other hand, was left with nothing but the bitter taste of his own deceit. The public scorn and a less favorable settlement were just the beginning. Karma, it seemed, had more twists and turns in store for him. In the grand theater of life, where every action has an equal and opposite reaction, David's deceit had boomeranged back to him, albeit in ways he had never anticipated. As Emma moved on with her life, finding happiness and success on her own terms, David became a cautionary tale, a testament to the fact that in the intricate game of life, one must always be wary of the cards held by fate. The cool autumn breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves and the promise of a new beginning as Emma strolled through the park. A year had passed since the tumultuous divorce, and with each step she took, she felt stronger, more resilient. The scars of the past were still present, but they had become a part of her, a reminder of how far she had come. She had taken the settlement and used it wisely, investing in her future and creating a life she was proud of. The incident had been a catalyst for growth, pushing her to discover strengths she never knew she possessed. As she rounded a corner, she saw him sitting on a nearby bench. David? Time had etched lines of weariness on his face, his shoulders slumped as if burdened by invisible weights. Their eyes met, and for a moment, a myriad of emotions flickered across his face: regret, longing, a hint of desperation. But Emma held his gaze steadily, her own emotions under control. He stood up, his movements stiff, and approached her hesitantly. "Emma," he began, his voice strained. "There's something I need to tell you." She stopped, turning to face him fully. "Is it another bombshell, David?" she asked, her voice betraying none of the turmoil she felt within. He hesitated, his gaze dropping to the ground. "I want to apologize for everything I said, everything I did. I was a fool and I'm sorry." Emma stared at him, dissecting his words, searching for any trace of insincerity. But she saw none. In his eyes, she saw genuine remorse, a flicker of the man she had once loved. A whirlwind of emotions threatened to pull her under, but she anchored herself to the present, refusing to be swept away. She had moved on, she reminded herself, and she was determined to stay on that path. "It's too late, David," she said finally, her voice echoing with finality. You destroyed our marriage, betrayed my trust, and broke my heart. I can't undo that. He reached out to touch her, but she flinched away, her heart breaking anew at the pain she saw in his eyes. I understand, he whispered, retracting his hand. But I needed you to know that I'm sorry. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Emma amidst the falling leaves, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. She watched him go, a myriad of emotions warring within her. For a moment, she felt a surge of sympathy, a desire to reach out and mend the fractured pieces of his heart. But she resisted the urge. She had done enough soul-searching, enough forgiving. It was time to move on, to build a future that didn't include him. Taking a deep breath, Emma turned back towards the direction of home, the silhouette of her strong and resolute. As the day slipped into twilight, Emma sat in the quiet solitude of her home, the events of the day replaying in her mind. She had been resolute, she knew, in turning away from David, yet a part of her couldn't help but wonder about the sincerity of his apology. Had he truly changed? Was he genuinely remorseful, or was it all an act? These questions, along with a myriad of others, swirled in her thoughts, threatening to pull her back into the maelstrom of emotions she had worked so hard to escape. Yet as she lay down on her bed, the soft fabric offering little comfort, she realized that the torment wasn't about David. It was about her inability to forgive herself. She had allowed doubt to creep into her paradise, she thought, focusing on the cracks instead of the beauty that surrounded her. She had failed to nurture their marriage, failing to see the warning signs that had flickered like dying embers. She remembered the late nights, the cryptic phone calls, the distance that had grown between them, wondering why she had ignored them, why she had clung to a dying dream. Most importantly, she wondered why she had let his infidelity shatter her spirit, why she had doubted her own strength and worth. As sleep finally claimed her, she was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that forgiveness was the key, not for David, but for her, for the broken pieces of her own heart. She had to forgive herself, for she was not perfect, she realized, and no one was. In the grand tapestry of life, where every thread plays a part in the intricate design, Emma's journey serves as a reminder of the complexities of human relationships. The unraveling of her marriage to David illuminated the fragility of trust and the resilience of the human spirit. Through the tumultuous tides of infidelity, deceit, and self-discovery, she emerged stronger, more compassionate, and wiser. The echoes of her pain resonated with anyone who had ever loved and lost, reminding us that in the theater of life, sometimes the greatest performances are those that come from the depths of our soul.